Hi, everybody. I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome today to our webinar that is focused around going from high-performing doer to becoming a highly confident leader. And many of you have experienced being stuck in a position, albeit in a high-performing doer position, or even in the first or second step up into leadership, that you kind of sort of get stuck. And that's what we want to talk about today. Why do you get stuck, and how can you take meaningful action in order to get moving into the right direction in a very intentional way, right? So again, if you're here, you already have care about doing leadership well. And today is about helping you doing it intentionally. The first paradigm shift I want everybody to make is that leadership is not just another thing that you do. Right? Leadership is a profession on its own, and I want you to learn to treat it as such. So let's dive right into it. So what we have to think about that, this is not just another webinar. What do I mean with that? And I've repeated myself many times in other, talks and lectures, is that webinars are fun social events. We come to them, we meet, we mingle, we connect, we network, all value adding. The problem is that things we say there are often not retained more than a day or two. Think about all of the healthcare leaders who travel on an annual basis to the ACHE National Congress. I've been there many times and intend to go there many more times. But can you truly remember much of anything that has been said by the Monday morning after the Congress, 7 days later? No. So today, I don't want you to look at this as a webinar. This is an information session. I want you to let this sink in. But out of this, I want you to birth true action steps. It's action-based learning where the magic takes place. Right? This is not about me trying to sell my service. I want you to really kind of wrap your head around where am I today? Where do I want to go tomorrow? And what is it that I need to do intentionally to get there? Right? It's a growth webinar for that purpose. Now, it is well known that leadership gets harder during a transition, especially those who have been taken from being a high-performing doer into a leadership role. And you say, why is that? Well, first of all, I look at leadership as a profession. Most people, the vast majority of people, are not professionally trained as leaders. But you might say, well, I have my master's degree, my MHA, my MPH, I have my MBA. Well, we don't really teach leadership there. Not effective situational servant type leadership. Yes, we talk about it in theory, but not in action. And that's a big difference. So when you go from being that high performing doer to becoming that person that now is leading and likely leading the same people that you worked with, which is even more difficult. All right, so that is something, the first thing we need to come to the realization is that we can continue to do in the role as a leader, but now how am I supposed to lead? Brene Brown has always said it best. You do not need to do it alone. Now, you would think that your employers are going to be way ahead of this, right? And say, listen, as you are going to become a leader, I'm going to support you. I'm going to give you guidance and mentorship, not just another webinar, conference, or online classes, but really, truly an opportunity to be able to learn and grow and expand in a safe zone, preferably with nice, close mentorship, right? So you are promoted for performance, right? But you're not truly prepared to be in leadership. Now, sadly, fake it until you make it is not good enough, right? Our goal as leaders, executives who hire people, should be really focused on getting people primed to accelerate through the onboarding process in order to be able to get people to really buy into and become that professional leader. And that's going to take time. All right. With that said, right, we have to think about that, right? We feel often that we come up short, right? That we are failing at the position that we're in, or failing as a leader because we feel unsupported. or we are not, we work in 40, 60, 70 hours a week in order to be able to get the job done on the end of the day. That is something that is problematic. But that does not mean that you are failing. All that really means is that you are not being supported. And that is critically important for you to recognize as a difference. Right? So it's not you, it's the circumstances around you. And for that, we need to find a solution. Right? So there's a hidden cost around every transition that you go through because it changes the expectation of you. Now, if you're already in leadership, you already have experienced that. And I call it often the valley of despair, by going from doer to your first management role. Your default setting is to do, even in your leadership role, as you try to figure out how to become that effective leader. It's difficult to do. But as you transition from first manager to middle management to senior management to executive management and even to the C-suite, right, things change around us. The expectation of you as the performer, both leading and doing, and a combination thereof, changes. Your focus changes. As I work with my mentees, I always talk about the 4 quadrants, right? Doing, improving, looking for opportunities, and thinking and looking into the future. Now, for example, as a new manager, you're not looking into the future, really looking at what is right here in front of me. Right? That's working with the front line and making improvements. So the percentage of time that you spend in each one of those quadrants changes as you move up the ladder. Again, the problem is that most of the leaders of today are not being supported through those transitions. Each time you make a transition, you really should be connected to a mentor, a coach, or be involved in some actionable work that you do to help you cross that, what I call the valley of despair. Right? So there are common traps that we see. And more hours and more theory is not going to fix this leadership gap. And the caution is that it's not time, right? That every minute you spend more than 32 hours a week to 40 hours a week on the job is wasted, and that's on you. Does it mean at times that you need to go out and work 60 hours a week? Absolutely. But your norm of productivity in any position, any organization should be about 32 hours, or 85% of your time. You should be adding value. You should be leading. You should be doing. Right? That changes again as you continue to climb that career ladder itself. So here, for example, we can see as a manager on the ground floor, right, it is all about leading people. That's the 90% of the front line reports to the middle manager. By the way, that is one of the most important jobs we have in any kind of organization. And these folks get the least amount of support, right? They're often the high capacity, high performer who are moved up into leadership. There might even be before they get a master's degree. Right? And again, master's degree is helpful, but it's just more theory. It's not really actionable based, highly effective leadership skills, knowledge, and ability. And as you move up to the mid-level, now you have to actually manage other managers who lead the front line. And seniors leaders now become more influential in a function, right, in a very specific area of the business itself. And as you go up into senior leadership, you're going to be influencing a function, but next to the degree of also starting to look at strategy. And in the next layer up of senior leader is driving the business. So that's looking at the entire picture. And then, of course, in the C-suite, you really focus much of your time on setting the strategy and then passing it on to people who are going to be making it operational. Again, each one of these shifts that you make are real. And we need to prepare ourselves for that. And it is often not found in another classroom. And that's what we rely upon way too heavily today. So the common trap is that more hours and more theory doesn't fix the leadership gaps. We have to come to the realization that is not where the solution is. It will just take more time, but it doesn't make you more efficient. All right, so you have to make this identity shift right, from doing the work is not the same as leading people. So now I'm really focusing on where I spend most of my time as with the emerging leader. But I see people who have failed to transition their mindset even all the way into the C-suite itself. Right? Those are the micromanagers that never let go of the work. They never learned how to truly empower and shift the responsibility from the owner to the performer. Again, this is where we need to really, for yourself, make this very intentional move from doing to leading. And remember that just because you are a leader now, you have a title of leader, does not mean you don't have to do. But the ratios of amounts of time you do, improve, and look for opportunities has shifted. Now, often we also would encourage people to start, you dress a little differently. You go in healthcare, you go from scrubs into wearing a suit and a tie. Now, you will still, we encourage people to learn to lead with confident humility, right? You want to be very relatable. At the same time, you need to take on that new persona of now I am a leader. I am to motivate. I'm to inspire. I'm to here to really explain the why behind things that are required or requested of us coming from the C-suite or from the boardroom. The identity shift is real. And a lot of people struggle with that, especially around imposter syndrome or dependence. Some people on the flip side, of course, they lead with ego and pride, and others lead with, micromanaging. That's not what the solution is. Right? It's the identity shift that takes you from doing to becoming that situational, supportive type leader that understands how to lead people and manage process is where you can learn to accelerate. And that you should not do alone. Right? There's not a book you can pick up that helps you get through that. So again, here it is about taking on certain pieces of the puzzle, right? It's about making sure that we have a deeper understanding of the processes and the culture and the structure and the support, right? And if you are taking a functional leader where you have many, or divisional leader where you have even more, this is very different from one side. Again, this could be, very difficult to wrap your head around. Often you are replacing somebody who has left the organization to either move up or move out, or a sudden vacancy. Right? There are not internal support systems to help you put it all together. Again, that valley of despair is real. Many people fall short and they end up leaving or never finding true happiness in the roles that they play because they weren't supported. Again, remember, go back to that slide. It's not, you did not fail, right? The organization failed to support you through that valley of despair itself. Think back on how you can relate to that in your current role, right? You've been working hard. You feel like you're deserving of that raise or that promotion. Right? Why are people not seeing this? Right? What is missing there? And that's where we have to come in and we have to reframe how we think. Right? We have to implement that growth mindset. That's what leaders do. Right? So leadership is built through daily practices, not big moments. It's how you show up every single day. It's how you come at that growth mind attitude that today is going to be a better day than yesterday. Now, to do this, you need to build out structure. You need to lead with vision. You need to work on processes. You need to build support systems. But there's no better and no more important support system than the one that you need through this transitional period of time. I've been guilty of this, that I come in with a full head of steam and I want to be creative and I want to make a difference and I want to make a big splash. The danger of doing that is that you start walking ahead of the organization or, ahead of the leading edge of the organization. You become a standout, but not for all the right reasons, right? You can be slowly become a cast out because if they cannot keep up with you, if they don't feel or believe that they can be there with you, they will dissociate. And that's where things, the house of cards comes tumbling down. So again, this is about mindful growth. It's about intentional work that is at the pace of the organization plus maybe 0.5, right? As you get more established and respected and understanding, and you have built these meaningful trust bonds and you engage the front line, You can push the limits a little bit, but you cannot and should not do that right out of the gate. Right? These can become what we call career stoppers over time. So what does actually work? Right? Because there is a solution, and the solutions are here because we have experienced this. We have been there and we have done that. We had our own pitfalls. We came up short. We were frustrated. We were denied promotions or transitions to new roles. Right? The key is to dream big, keep a clear eye out on what it is that you want to accomplish, but you have to act very small, very intentional, and very deliberate. Right? It is the reps that compound. You don't go to the gym and walk out of there after one session with muscle growth of your bicep by 2 or 3 inches. But if you go there every day for 15 minutes for the next 120 days, I guarantee you they're going to be at least an inch or two growth on their bicep circumference. Leadership is the exact same way. Right? You have to show up, be a steady force. You have to lead with clarity. Right? You have to walk, not run. You have to deeply understand and bring people along with you. It's what you do on a day-to-day basis, cumulatively speaking, is going to have the greatest impact, and it will get you one step closer to wherever it is that you want to go. So it is rhythm over motivation itself. Right? So it's about establishing a laser focus on what you want to accomplish, what you need to accomplish. And again, I go back to it, is that you are in a transition period, up to 5 or 6 different levels that you can go in. So that means that you are likely not the expert. Right? You know a lot. You might have deserved that, or you're in a position that you want to be promoted. Right? Now is the time to be very deliberate and take small incremental steps that can be, value adding to you and then value adding to the organization. And if you do that, you will be noticed, right? And noticed, I really call it more, you can lead with cause. You don't go out and say, I'm doing this to get promoted. You're leading with cause. So the effect of that is going to be that promotion because it will be undeniable. But it is not what you do once a week or once a month. It's how you show up every single day, how you prioritize your work and do the things that matter most. Do things that are aligned to the North Star of your organization. Do things that are aligned to the desired outcome in the function that you're currently working in. Right? Your efficiency can get you there quicker. That is a standout. Right? You can improve upon the margins. That's a standout. But it all happens at the root. It's what you do on a day-to-day basis that gets you one step closer. No different than, listen, you're going to build lots of relationships, but it is the partnerships that you will develop with people that's going to get you across that finish line. Right? A partnership that you look for synergies. Right? 1 + 1 is 3. On the same boat, going in the same direction with the same purpose. That's what you seek. Those are the small daily interactions and reps that you need to take in your current role. And that delivers real outcomes. And the real outcomes that helps you in your growth year, 2026, to lead with confidence and lead with clarity, right? And that is built one day at a time. That as you get a deeper understanding of the process that you're responsible for, as you become a more effective leader because you genuinely love the people that you lead through context, not control. You're working on creating this high performance winning environment, and you can work with great focus. That's where the outcomes come from. It is truly all action based. They don't teach that in the MBA or the MHA. Right? This is something that you need to learn to adapt to for yourself. That if you want it, you need to go out and get it by doing these things that have been proven to be highly effective. So the cost of waiting is real. Right? That if you don't do these things, then you should not expect to be picked up for that promotion or to be able to find a new job in a higher level or to even get that bonus or that raise above the standard of living, right? So waiting feels safe, but it can be very expensive. And let me tell you how expensive this is. If you did not work intentional and work for that promotion, that 10 to 15% raise, and I'm going to limit, most middle managers today are making about $100,000 a year. You get that 15% raise, that's $15,000. That $15,000 compounded at 7.7% over 25 to 30 years is worth $1 million. That's what you are missing out on. Right? So you have to be very intentional, and you need to not wait for it to come to you, but you need to take the bull by the horn. That means I can lead you to water, but I cannot make you drink it. Right? That's entirely up to you. If you want to be that growth leader in 2026, if you want that promotion, if you want that raise, you have to be intentional in the work that you do every day. Small reps lead to big outcomes. To the compound effect, right? And in finance, we learned about these things, right? But every year you delay, somebody else prepares. And we didn't talk about it. We just talked about money. But you have to remember that you will be left behind. And interesting enough, I work with folks in finance, right? The expectation in finance is that if you don't get promoted every 2 years, you'll be left behind. And that could cost thousands of dollars if you think about that. Right? So it is really important to make sure that you understand the culture of the organization you work in, understand what the rhythm of promotion is, and that you put the work intentionally into it in order to be able to be part of that opportunity. But if you sit back, if you feel low confidence, if you have that imposter syndrome and don't do something about it, expect to be left behind. And again, that compound effect can cost you thousands, if not millions of dollars. Another example of that is when you are going to be hired by a new organization, you always have to negotiate for that salary. Always ask for 10% more than what they offer to you. Right? Even if you end up with 5% more, compound that 5%, that's worth $500,000 over 25 years. Right? You don't need to do this alone. Right? It is this lack of support that is often the cause why you are being left behind. This is not your fault, but it is something that is actionable on your part, that if you want it, you have to be intentional about it. Right? So there is a better path. Right? So leadership growth should support your life, not consume it. So I'm the first to tell you that working 80 hours a week is not good for your health, is not good for your relationships, is not good for anybody. Right? Working 60 hours a week, slightly better, but still you're doing work that takes away from something else. And I've said this, that any one of us in leadership is really juggling 6 balls at the same time. But only one of those balls is made out of glass. We can drop the balls at work, but we cannot drop the ball at home. When that glass ball is dropped, it shatters. So working more hours is not leadership to me, right? That's being ineffective with your time, and it will consume you, and it will lead to burnout. And it's precisely the reason, especially in healthcare, it's 65%. In the general workforce, it's about 54, 55%, not much better, that people are at or near burnout. We do not need to do that. We can prevent this by being more intentional in our leadership. So mentorship matters, right? No one reaches the next level alone. Your boss, often looked at as being your mentor, is not really the right person for that. With some exceptions, of course. They should find the support you need to accelerate through a transition, or priming the pump to get you ready for a promotion, or ready for that raise that you work hard for and deserve. The thing is that doing it alone is not going to help you accelerate, right? And you could be left behind, which could be very costly for your family. So again, mentorship needs to be a priority of you to seek. And that can be paid, it can be unpaid. It doesn't really make a difference. But mentorship is having regular interactions with people who have been there, done that, is experiential based, who can help and guide you to get through that moment, that valley of despair, where you can accelerate into a growth session and bring all the people that you lead at that point in time with you. If you don't do this, this becomes a struggle, right? It's like rolling a ball uphill. The second you let go of the ball rolls back down, right? But with that help, a different approach leads to different outcomes, right? So it's a guided structure that beats the self-discipline alone. Now, how do I know that? Well, simple. On December 31st, right at midnight, the stroke of midnight, I'm going to say, I'm going to get healthy this year. I'm going to go buy that membership. I can do that. I go to the gym 3 times 1 week, twice the second week, 1 time the third week, go back 4 more times for the entire year. We lack the discipline to drink the water consistently. We can lead ourselves to water. We can even be led to water. But to be good at doing the things I talked about, there's small incremental reps on a daily basis that's going to make the difference of, for you to get to your, transition period in a more efficient and effective manner, needs to be done in a very intentional way. Right? So we cannot do it and expect it, do the same thing over and over and expect a different outcome. Right? We have to do things slightly different. So what is possible? I've done now, met with, I don't know, let's say 1,000 people, and I've worked with at least 400 of people consistently over a period of time. It is crystal clear to me that literally nobody is successful working on something 1 hour at a time or 2 hours at a time. Right? They do it well for maybe an hour here, an hour there, but focus is lost really quickly. So how can we overcome that? Well, the theme that I've adopted, that in just about 15 minutes a day, you too can be ... So in this case, in 15 minutes a day, you can change on how you lead. Right? In 15 minutes a day, you can learn how to play a piano. In 15 minutes a day, you can learn how to become a helicopter pilot. But you need to do the 15 minutes a day. And that on its own is already very hard for people. People are so busy in that trap of doing or reacting, firefighting, that they don't set aside that 15 minutes of true, deep, mindful growth, intentional work that leads to leading with confidence in a timely manner with crystal clear clarity that leads to the outcomes that you desire. So I can look inwardly and say, how many minutes per day am I, scrolling on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram? Most of us do for far more than 50 minutes. Carve out 15 minutes. Set an alarm clock, a stopwatch. 15 minutes of really, truly focused time on building skills, knowledge, and abilities that let you lead a better life. Right? Time management, process management, getting rid of non-value added activities that you have during the day, shortening meetings from being an hour long to 30 minutes. All these things can very much be accomplished, but it all needs to be done intentional, through context, and it needs to be measured over a period of time so it becomes sustainable. Sustainability is not a strong suit of human beings. 70, 80, even 90% of the things we said we're going to do, we either don't do at all or we come well short of the intended target. And the little truth here is that often we lower our standards as the years proceed because we want to show up to the boss and say, look what I 75% of the teams, 75% of the people fall short of their outcomes. And they will tell little white lies about it. That's not how we accelerate. That's not how you work for cause. That's not how you going to get that promotion you seek, right? That's how you provide for your family at 32 to 40 hours a week, not 40 to 60 hours. So we need to go to a period of reflection. Now, I call this a period of priming, right? So we have to visualize What is it that I need to change? I need to change in order to be able to emerge as a new person coming out of it. Now, I would encourage you not to do this alone, right? Have a structured approach with a coach, a mentor, with somebody that you can trust, somebody who can be a partner in. Right? Make it a guided structure. Again, it beats the self-discipline. We are not disciplined enough to do this for long enough to make this sustainable. But if you use an accountability partner in this mix, who can ask challenging questions, can help guide you to what it is that you actually want to do for yourself. Right? It's very individual. There's no one solution. Everybody has their own dream. But it is the intentional 15 minutes a day that there's a small steps that you take that leads to the outcomes that you desire. Right? It is a mindset that we talk about. So that if you want to be a leader for the future, if you want that raise, if you want that promotion, this is what you need to do. Right? You need to find the challenge. You need to visualize that growth. You need to ready yourself in order to proceed, but don't do that alone. Right? We're not disciplined enough. Most of us are not disciplined enough to be able to get there. Some will get there by chance. But again, if you are not aligned, if you're not prepared, you often fall short. And we all know what that feels like, right? If nothing happens by the next 12 months, think about the impact that has, right? Missing out on that $10,000 to $15,000 raise per year for next 20, that's leaving $1 million behind, right? So this should wake you up. This should shake you at the core and say, listen, I not only need to challenge myself, but I need to work for intentional growth. And that is really the part that where people come up short. I can lead you to water, but I cannot make you drink it. Right? And I'm starting to see this even in my smart performance app that is in the App Store, that people are buying it, but then they're not using it. All the things that you need in order to be able to go through your growth periods, to accelerate your growth, right in front of you. Right? But it is better done with somebody else, a coach, a mentor, a peer, a buddy, a group. Right? I even posted today of making an argument that we are better if we do it together. Right? There's some peer pressure there. That's why we have a group session on a weekly basis at 2:30 where we come together. Right? We do better. We perform at a higher level. We can study. We can do things on a daily basis. But again, having that little piece of accountability. So your question is for 2026, are you ready? Right? Are you ready to break old chains? Are you ready to break old habits? Are you spending enough time to really visualize where it is that you want to go? Are you priming for the future? Are you embracing progress? Are you making a daily commitment of 15 minutes a day and you're going to measure that in order to get to that target? Again, remember that this is human psychology. We are less likely to do this, right? We are likely to fail or come short 70, 80, 90%. So this has to be very deliberate action on your part, a deep commitment. And again, I encourage you to share this with somebody else, a coach, a mentor, a peer. Don't go at it alone. It is very few of us who have the discipline to get across the finish line. I certainly have had great mentors along the way who I did not believe in myself. They helped me believe in myself, right? And over time, from experiences, and that's what I'm doing now with folks, right? So what are the next steps, right? Choose the level of support that fits you. So not everybody needs the exact same thing. You need to go through the determination what it is that you need to be successful in 2026, right? Is it taking a course? Is it going to a webinar? Is it going to a conference? Is it connecting with a mentor? Is it buying the app online and taking that step by step to hold yourself accountable 15 minutes a day, right? You should all get some level of mentorship, paid or unpaid. Does it make a difference? You should be meeting with somebody on a very regular basis, if for nothing else, to hold yourself accountable and to share experience. And hopefully, if you have the right mentor, they can advise, guide, and certainly help you be self-accountable. I'd be prepared to come to the meeting, show up on time, report back what you have accomplished. Right? It's not about the person that is the mentor. It's about you. But you do that better if you do it in front of somebody else. And it's even better if you measure that on a day-to-day basis. Coaching is a different level, right? And people often ask me, what's the difference between, well, mentorship is somebody who has experience in your field, who's been there, done that, has experienced the pains. Now, if you're on that level of middle to upper senior level, strategic coaching are coaches who can ask really deep, penetrating questions and really help guide you and shape you for the future itself. It can be more intensive over a short period of time, but it can be, and it should be transformative, right? So I do both. For example, I do coach and mentor. I find people in wherever they are in their journey. Sometimes they need mentorship. Other times they need coaching. Sometimes they need a little bit of both at the same call. But at the end of the day, you are the one who needs to show up with intention. You are the one who needs to come and follow through on a day-to-day basis. You are the one who needs to work and lead with clarity, with purpose, and measure the things that you do on a day-to-day basis so you can report them back to yourself using your coach and mentor to do that. That's how you set yourself for success in 2026 and beyond. So you already have what it takes, but now you need to lead with intentionality. You have to go out and get it. It will not come to you. Few of you might get lucky, but most of us will not. So again, I'm going to stop to where I started. If you are the one who feels that you came up short in that interview, you get to that second round, maybe even the third round, but you don't get the position. If you feel you were overlooked after you completed a big project for not getting that bonus, that raise, that promotion, right? Take it that serious what I just talked about. Small intentional actions on a day-to-day basis. It's not taking more theory. It's not about taking another class or going to another webinar. This is about daily actions that you need to take. To do this and accelerate, you need to do it with somebody else and coach and a mentor. So with that said, a great way to start for you today, right? And you can almost prove it to yourself that what I have just said. Go to the App Store, download the Dutch Mentor app. Start that 7-day free trial. And once you have it downloaded, remember that anything that is free, we're not going to focus on as much as we have to pay for something, right? Prove it to yourself that you can do something 7 days in a row with great intentionality. That you look at the different, go to the variety of classes in there. And these are not lesson plans that are congruent. You can take one here, take one day, you can listen to a podcast. But do it. Show to yourself that you have the discipline to do it. You'll prove to yourself that you are likely not. That you are likely in that pool of people that need an accountability partner. Right? I'm available to you. Just go to my website at dutchmentor.com, book a free consultation call. Let's have a conversation about your career. And just remember, right? If you are being intentional and you get that raise and that promotion, that could be worth $1 million. Whereas those of you who are going to wait for it to come to you, you're going to lose that $1 million. So again, thank you. I'm Walt. I'm the Dutch Mentor. In just 15 minutes a day, you too can be the leader you always wanted to have, or the leader that your team needs to thrive under. Have a great day, and we'll talk soon again.